Just moving away from this fight, Paulie. I haven't spoken to you for a while since then. While the Fury took place, I watched the Showtime replay here in the UK. I saw your commentary. You're very vocal about the fight.
I'm a guy.
Use the terminology robbery.
Yeah, I think so. I feel like the two biggest fights. The frustrating thing for me was the two biggest fights of the year in boxing. Two fights where you probably had the most crossover fans and casuals watching it, where you have a chance to kind of start drawing more people to become hardcore fans from the casual perspective. They both involved very controversial, to put it mildly, decisions. Golovkin versus Canelo and Wilder versus Fury. So yeah, by the time I got to Wilder versus Fury, I had already experienced Canelo and Golovkin, so I had probably had it up to here. Making our sport look bad.
But what can be done?
Nothing can be done. What are we going to do? Has anything been done ever? Nothing can be done. Nothing will be done. It's the way the powers that be like it, It's, you need 50-50 promotions, but, you don't have 50-50 promotions because some promoters are stronger than others, and that's the power business, the business of the power game. You have to line yourself out of the ring just like you line yourself in the ring. I think Wilder and Fury are two great fighters. It's just a matter of, I think that the A-side fighter, the home fighter in that position, got the benefit of the doubt. Didn't mean he fought a bad fight. Obviously, he scored 2 knockdowns. You can take a lot out of that fight. But there's a lot of work to be done. Probably some work to be done from Fury's part as well. Obviously, you don't get knocked down twice and not say you wouldn't have work to do. I think more work has to be done from Wilder's perspective, if there is even to be a rematch.
Being in Wilder's position, where Eddie said we want the Joshua fight, he's got an option to fight Fury again. What's the better fight for Deontay Wilder? Stylistically, what's the easier fight for him?
I think stylistically, I wouldn't call the fight easy either way. I think stylistically he matches up better with Joshua. I think he matches up better with Joshua, stylistically. I think Fury stylistically is worse for both of them.
So since Fury's return, everyone thought there are two fights that shouldn't have been in the ring with Deontay Wilder. It proved everybody wrong.
Yeah, and that's why I kind of had a hard time predicting the fight beforehand, because people kind of just started always leaning towards Wilder, and I was like, you know what, did Fury ever give me anything before the Klitschko fight to make me think he would beat Klitschko the way he did? No. So I said, you know what, I'm not going to make that mistake again and just write this guy off. So I'm having a hard time deciding which way I want to go in the fight, And, your logical mind wants to say Wilder, just like your logical mind wanted to say Klitschko in 2015. But this guy's an illogical guy to watch and predict. And he's clearly very underrated as well.
Joshua came out this week. He was on ESPN. He was on First Take as well. And Max Kellerman asked him about the status that they thought of Fury as a lineal champion. And Joshua's response was, well, I've never heard of such a status. It doesn't exist. But from your perspective, he was the man that beat the man.
That's from your perspective.
Okay.
I'm more on the side of Joshua. I respect Fury, his game and his boxing style. But yes, I don't really give a shit about the lineal title, because you can't enforce any defenses. You cannot enforce guys to fight certain guys who merit the opportunity to fight the fight. The lineal fight is what I like to call nerdy shit. Like nerds, nerds in school when the guys get all study and they all start reading and they're like the best students. Like the nerds of boxing, love the lineal shit. Like they're the only ones who care about that. You know what I'm saying? Because it has absolutely nothing to do with actual fighting. Has absolutely nothing to do with what's right and what's wrong. Because the lineal champion can go fight whoever he wants. He can fight the kitchen waiter every time he fights if he wants. And the nerds will always call him the lineal champion. So no, you cannot enforce that title. So no, I don't really have respect for it. But it gets mentioned, and because of the popularity of the term, it gets a little bit of respect. I respect Fury's game because of what he does in the ring. The lineal title doesn't really mean a lot to me. But I respect Fury for knowing how to raise his game when it comes to fighting world-class opposition, regardless of how he's looking against average opposition. He knows how to take his game to another level when he has to.
Has your perception changed on number 1, number 2, number 3 are between those fighters?
I think Fury probably is a little bit ahead of Wilder and Joshua. I think Fury's a little bit ahead. But these aren't the kind of guys that are dominant the way Vladimir Klitschko was in his prime. I think these guys are better than the rest of the weight class, but they're flawed enough that the rest of the weight class on any given night may beat any of them. Vladimir Klitschko was probably in his prime better than any of these three guys in their prime, and the rest of the weight class, Who knows? Maybe it was probably the same place it's at now. It's just Klitschko was so much better. I think these three guys are, I wouldn't say head and shoulders above the rest of the weight class, maybe just head above the rest of the weight class, you know? Which means on any given night, I think a guy like Dillian Whyte can come in and upset the apple cart, or a guy like Luis Ortiz, you know, can come in and maybe upset the apple cart, you know? I think they've shown and they proved that they are better, so you have to consider them the top three guys. But I think that you also become more of a fan of them because they're flawed and they show things that a guy as dominant as Klitschko didn't have to see, didn't have to show, and that's character. They get hurt, they go down, they come from behind, you know, they have to show character, and I think that makes you more of a fan of them, you know, from a human perspective. It's hard to understand domination. That's why so many people think this, like William Mayweather as well. You know, they couldn't understand how great he really was, you know. And I think that's the same thing with Vladimir Klitschko. You know, in his prime, I think he's kind of an underrated guy, you know. But so I think these guys are probably below Klitschko in their prime, in his prime. But they are above the rest of the weight class, but just enough to still keep it exciting.